I am 29 and my wife is also 29. I'll call myself Hugo and my wife Valentina. We met about 8 years ago when I went to the specialist doctor she works for. She was the office person there. She did all the scheduling and paperwork when you went in and out. I thought she was nice and very beautiful and healthy looking. I was taken away with her right up front. I asked her if she had a man and she said no, so I asked her to go to coffee and she declined, but was polite. I said, "Okay, sorry for asking." And she said, "That is all right, no problem, and thank you for asking me, kind sir." I had to go back to that specialist doctor 3 more times over the next 5 weeks. The next time I went, I was friendly when I entered and checked out, but did not say much to her because I had felt a bit embarrassed from the first meeting. I noticed though she tried to make conversation with me and to get me to talk to her, but I didn't, as I kind of felt like a foolish man with embarrassment. The next time I went, she greeted me warmly and asked how my weekend was and what I did for fun. She said she was all alone at home and just read a novel all weekend. I told her I went to the gym and to the new auto show both days. She then asked me a lot of questions about my workout and about the cars I like. I talked to her at the desk for a long time until I was called back to see the doctor. When I was about leaving, she was on the phone with a customer patient, so the nurse lady checked me out. But before I left the office, Valentina put her hand over the phone receiver and told me goodbye. See you next time. I thought this girl was now seeming to have interest in me for some reason. It was all flattering and such, but I was beginning to wonder why or whether she did have a sudden change of heart. The next time I went in, it was my last visit there. It was busy when I walked in and Valentina was helping 3 of us patients at the same time at the desk, but she smiled at me with eyes that were bright. When I left, I told her I was all done there and would not have to come back. She told me she was glad for me, but was sad because she wouldn't see me again. I said goodbye and walked out the door, and as I was waiting for the elevator in the hall, Valentina came up behind me and said she would like to go for coffee sometime if I still wanted to. I was taken aback by this boldness and said yes. She gave me her digits, and I put them in my phone and sent her a text so she had my digits too. I had a wonderful feeling in my body after leaving that building. The following Saturday, we met for coffee at a shop in the village area. We enjoyed each other's company, and I could sense she was really feeling it, and I knew I absolutely was too. We stayed there and talked for over 90 minutes, and then went out and walked through the streets and grabbed a pastry to share on a bench. There Valentina invited me to dinner at her place. I accepted, and she kissed me on the cheek when we parted. The day went magnificent, but she being the one who kissed first was pleasant and surprising. So that night, I went to her place for dinner and could not believe it. She lived in a beautiful flat in the most costly part of town. I thought to myself, how does this girl live in such a place as an office worker? She prepared a great meal, and we enjoyed ourselves over dinner and a couple glasses of wine. After dinner, we were in the sitting room listening to music and talking when Valentina started kissing me and made it clear to me right there that I was the one she wanted that evening. I was very surprised at this and thought to myself, this isn't what I signed up for, at least not that night, so quick in one day. She calmed down and we embraced and just talked the rest of the night, but she made it known to me that she was ready to get physical when I was ready to take that step. I left there feeling really good about my esteem, but I had a little doubt as I thought this all seemed a little bit too good to be happening after just a short time together. Well, we were intimate the next time out together. From there, we were steady as a couple and got engaged for matrimony 8 months later, and then married the following summer after being a couple for 18 months. After marriage, we bought a modest but very nice home in a good part of the city. There we conceived our first child, a daughter, who was born 10 months later, and our second child, also a daughter, born the next year. Everything was very great in our marriage life. Extreme love for each other, passion, there was never a dull moment, and the most beautiful and loving children. Also, with my salary and Valentina's salary, we had our home more than half paid after 5 years. I could not have been more happy if I had written this book myself, but sometimes things are not as they appear on paper. One day at work, I got a call from a young woman who said she was the daughter of the doctor Valentina works for. She said she and her sister wanted to speak with me urgently, and it's important. I asked if something was wrong with my Valentina, and she said no, Health wasn't a problem here, but there was something they felt that I needed to know and don't tell Valentina. Okay, I thought, what's up here? So I agreed to meet with them at a cafe the following afternoon as I was very busy the day she called. So I got to the cafe and there are these two young ladies sitting at a corner table. I noticed they are progressive girls who attend university with dyed hair, face piercings, and tattoos. Okay, that's not my cup of tea, but each person makes their own decisions, right? I bought them coffee and we started speaking. I asked, "Why do you ladies want to talk to me?" They wasted no time, and the older girl told me their father, the doctor, has been having an affair with my wife Valentina for years, many years. I had anger and told them both to hold things right there, that I would not tolerate them soiling my wife's honor in this manner, and I got up to leave the establishment. Then the younger girl told me to please wait, sir. She said she had something she wanted to show me. She pulled up a video clip on her phone of my Valentina and the doctor without any clothes having relations. I put my hand over the phone and told her to get that out of my sight, and I didn't believe it. The girls told me, "Sir, this is not fiction." They said they had videos dating all the way back to 9 years. I excused myself and went outside to my vehicle and started to cry, but then composure returned, and I went back into the shop. I asked them what the date of the video was, and it was from before I met Valentina. I got hope hearing that, and then asked when is the most recent video. The younger girl said the most recent video was from 15 months ago. I asked her to show it to me and she did. It was Valentina accepting the doctor through another part of the body for which she and I never explored. Seeing that, I told the girls I had to leave and would be back and get in touch with them. I drove to the church parking lot nearby and sat there in my auto crying for a long while. Then I got myself together and went home. I tried to be normal, but Valentina and my girls noticed I was not level. I got through the evening, and the next day I told Valentina I wanted to take her to dinner that night and to arrange for our daughters to be watched by her parents. She was happy about this and looked forward to our evening. That day at work, I called the doctor's daughter, who first reached out to me and asked if I could get the videos. She said they were too big to text or mail to me, but she would put them on a drive and give me the links to the drive where I could access them and play them on my phone or computer. She sent me the links and I did something I shouldn't have. I started watching them. I became so upset after watching just 2 of them that I had to leave work and went home to watch the rest. What I saw will never leave my mind and was total sickness. To my surprise, Valentina came home that afternoon and was not in her uniform. She was taken aback at seeing me home, and I was taken aback seeing her there. She asked me why I was there, and I told her to come with me to the bedroom as I had something to show her. From our computer, I pull up one of the videos and played it for her. She right away started crying and ran onto the porch. I went out there and she tried to embrace me, but I kept her away and asked her to explain this. She kept crying and I yelled at her to explain herself. All she could say was she didn't know. I asked, "What do you mean you don't know?" She said she didn't know why she did what she did, but she has great shame and total remorse for her actions. She couldn't speak anymore from crying, so I left her alone at the house and went out for a long drive. I drove down the expressway, ignoring her attempts to reach me. Finally, after driving an hour, I answered her call, and she asked me to come back. I said I would only go back if she explained everything to me from the start, and she agreed to that. So I drove back home, which took nearly 2 hours because of work traffic. Okay, here's the hard part for me. Valentina explained that she has been having relations with the doctor 2 months after she started working there. She said at first she was in love with him, but then it became just a physical thing. She said the doctor encouraged her to date me as a cover for their affair, and she continued to have full physical relations while we were dating. She said she fell in love with me, and that made the doctor mad, and he was going to fire her. So she continued having full relations with him until we got engaged. She said since that time, she has only done things one way with a monster doctor and always with protection, and has never done anything with her reproductive or oral parts since, except with me. I asked her if she was still having these sick relations with this man, and she said no, they ended completely 13 months ago. Valentina said even before they stopped completely, they only had physical relations 3 times during the last 2 years of their affair. She then told me she had been let go from her job 2 weeks ago, as was his 2 nurse assistants, as the doctor shut down his practice. She said he is paying her and the nurses for 6 more weeks, but then she will get no further income from him. She said, since getting fired, she has been leaving home in the morning in her uniform, but then comes back home after I leave to change clothes and go out to look for a job. She said she was offered a job just a kilometer from home, but the pay is less than half of what she was making before. Valentina begged for forgiveness, saying she was done with the doctor forever and away from his evil curse. She said she knows she did wrong and will be a totally dedicated wife to me for the rest of her life. She asked me if I was completely satisfied with her before finding this terrible news out, and I said, yes, of course I was, but I didn't know what you were doing with the doctor under my nose. She said she has a sickness and wants to be cured of it, and asked if I would go with her to see a mind counselor. I told her no, I don't need to see a quack, but she should see a quack as she definitely has major problems beyond what I've ever heard one to have. Valentina then said she has thought about everything, and that if I divorce and force the sale of our home, she will be forced into low-rent housing. She asked if I really wanted to see our daughters live like that. I told her of course I don't, but I can't be married to her. I could never be married to a bad woman like that who used her body for money like a common street woman. She begged me not to tell anyone yet. She said let's just give it a few weeks to see if I settle down. She said if I'm still upset after that and can't go on with her, then she will give a full written confession of her indiscretions, tell everyone in our family, and give me a no-strings divorce if I want. The first thing I did was to get myself tested for infection, and I was clear of any STDs. I next took my girls and got a DNA tracing done, and it came back that I was over 99% sure and I was the father. I already knew this as they both looked just like me. I hired an attorney, and he advised me on how to proceed. He recommended that Valentina give a full written confession with complete details as a requirement for me staying at least temporarily. I approached Valentina on this and she agreed to do it. I also had copies of each of the videos from the doctor's daughters. My representative said these were all the evidence we need to prove infidelity in the event my wife tries to lie about it if I file for divorce. During this period, Valentina was sleeping in the guest room as I couldn't stand to look at her, and she agreed to keep a distance from me when the girls were not with us. She kept saying I could take as much time as I wanted, and she will be there for me whatever I decide, and that she loves me only. During this period, I was faced with the thought of not being able to see my girls every day and how I was going to keep them living in this good neighborhood, as I didn't want them to live in just any kind of neighborhood. I later found a good solution to keep my kids in the good section of town and still be able to see them as much as I wanted. Let me now explain. My in-laws are wonderful people. I wish Valentina had their morals, but she doesn't. They've lived in the same house for 34 years since they got married at age 18. They had and still have much love for each other. They live in an area that was once very nice, but over the past few years, the government had been settling immigrants in their neighborhood. I have no issues with immigrants settling in the country, but most of them were young unemployed men. Since then, crime went up terribly and many of the residents are afraid to walk on the streets of town. Now, not all of these men are dangerous, but there are some real bad apples there. Now let me explain how this solved my situation. After a month of living with Valentina, after finding out about her and the doctor, I told her it was time to tell our parents. She agreed, but was sad and had very much embarrassment and remorse for her actions. We told my parents on the phone, and they were very sad about this whole ordeal. We then went over to her parents' house, and they were just completely distraught and cried. A few weeks went by, and I made my mind up that I couldn't continue living with Valentina anymore, and I needed to get the divorce. But I still hadn't found a housing solution for my kids yet. Then I had an idea that was great. What if my in-laws sold their house and bought out my half of our house and moved in with Valentina? This way, my girls could still live in the house and I could visit often, even every day. I pitched this idea to them, and they were all for it, but Valentina rejected it and was sad because I wanted to divorce. She begged me for days, but I said no. I explained to her that this was a great solution, and it gets her parents out of a bad area and lets our girls and her live in the wonderful home we built. Valentina finally agreed, and my in-laws sold their home to the government for a road widening. I then moved into a flat just 1.5 kilometers from our house and gave my attorney the approval to file for the divorce. It's going to take 5 more months to get completed, but my mind is now at ease. I finally had a solution for my girls and in-laws, and I now have a plan myself. My life is good again, and my mind has almost returned to normalcy. I would also like to add some things. First, the doctor's daughters are actually good people even though they don't look like it. Their lifestyles are not for me, but everyone is free to do what they want, right? They told me that their dad was mentally abusive to their mother throughout their entire marriage and was totally absent from their lives, and when they got older, they begged their mom to leave him. But she didn't, even though she was miserable. I've never met the doctor's wife, but the daughters tell me she is a wonderful woman. She later filed for divorce, and it was already final. The daughters tell me she is doing well now on her own and is happy for the first time they ever remember. As for the doctor, the daughters ruined his reputation on social media and pressured the hospital system to get rid of him. That was why he shut down suddenly and let go of all his employees. This was all due to his daughter's actions, as they hated him and wanted nothing to do with him. As a result, they also have a general disdain for men because of the bad example he set. I told them that not all men are terrible humans like their father. They told me they realize that now and are starting to be more open to having men in their lives. Also, the daughters told me that after Valentina and the doctors stopped having regular relations, he started up with a young woman at the hospital and with a married patient of his. This is a big no-no for doctors in this country, and as such, it is unlikely that he will ever be able to restart his practice and may have to move internationally. He has since moved out of the metro area and lives in an apartment. He lost his business, his reputation, his wife, and his daughters. I should have suspected something was wrong when I saw that Valentina's salary was more than twice that of what a normal person gets paid for that kind of work, but I thought she must be doing a good job. I wish none of this ever happened, and I still had my wife in my life as I thought she once was, but that's not possible. So with everything into consideration, life is good for me, my girls, my in-laws, and yes, for Valentina, even though I will never be her man again. I am at peace now and once again look forward to getting up in the morning. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Until next time, I'll see you again. Take care.